everyone, it's Jared back for another video, and today we are going to be indulging in some spine-chilling horror because it's coming up to Halloween and I want to do a horror type video. Today's video is the first in a series I am going to be trialling on this channel. I'm going to be trying a couple of series over the next couple of weeks, which I've got in mind, to see what works and what doesn't. So this series is called Beyond the Game, and it's basically me chatting to you about some of my fondest gaming memories, and hopefully you guys responding with some of your fondest gaming memories in the comment section down below. A little bit of interactivity, because there are those games that have just left an indelible, just that real impression upon us, whether it's growing up, whether it's sort of in older years, whether it's playing with friends, whatever that happens to be. And for this game, this definitely was one that exceeded the gaming environment to my college days, to my schoolboy days, throughout the entire franchise really. Horror games are one of the most intense gaming experiences as far as I'm concerned, and when a horror game is done well, it's unmatched. And I've enjoyed Alan Wake. I had some really good memories playing Outlast, but none compare to the original, and for me that was Resident Evil on the original PlayStation. Now, for those of you who were alive back then in the 1990s, you had Alone in the Dark, which had 3D environments on the PC, but on console there was very, very few games, if any, that were like the original Resident Evil. Walking through the halls of the mansion, I felt like I was in an episode of The X-Files, which was also a very prolific show at that time.
Where's my partner?
Why are you pointing that gun?
There were corpses right there underneath the floor!
I really felt like I was somewhere else, and I remember through the first playthrough, I didn't actually play it, my friend played it and I just watched him, and I remember the both of us being absolutely terrified by some of the moments. So this is 5 truly terrifying moments from the original Resident Evil game. So, honourable mention, the zombies. Back in the mid-90s when this game was released, we didn't have the zombie mania that we have now. I think actually Resident Evil is responsible for the resurgence in the public interest in zombies, especially when the second and third games came out, which led to the theatrical release in the early 2000s. And we had so many films following that. Zombieland, Dawn of the Dead, remake Land of the Dead, several Resident Evil films, The Walking Dead TV series. There was so many now that we've almost become kind of sick of zombies. But back then, when we see the first original zombie, it was more of a that is cool moment.
What is it?
Watch out! It's a monster!
Let me take care of this.
I often find, even playing through Resident Evil now, when I hear the shuffle of a zombie in the room, I'm kind of grateful that it's not something else. So, although the zombies in the original Resident Evil were cool for their time, they were far surpassed by the zombies in the remake and the subsequent remakes. There are elements of the Resident Evil remake where zombies act like the 28 Days Later zombies. They're really fast, and that is actually quite terrifying. Or in the Resident Evil 3 remake, when they can grab you and their heads explode into some sort of weird, I don't know what that is, but I don't like it.
What the fuck?
Anyway, the zombies in the original game, they sometimes spit on you, they obviously can do some damage, but they're not really frightening per se. They are more just enemies to be sort of gunned down. Cool enemies, but not actually frightening. And another honourable mention, the voice acting. Okay, it was the mid-1990s, and we had things like Mega CD full motion video acted games, which were dreadful, and we didn't really care too much about the voice acting. But wow, looking back on it, I think it's actually quite terrifying how they got away with using such terrible... Like, look at this.
Jill? Is that you, Jill? What happened?
Barry, help me, please. The door won't open. Quick!
Stay away from the door, Jill. I'm gonna kick this door down.
Hurry! This way!
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Barry, thanks for saving my life. But Barry, didn't you say you're going back to the dining room to do some research? Why on earth are you here?
I just had something I wanted to check. Now, let's get back to searching for the lost captain and Chris.
So number 5 is the freakish animals. Now, when you're playing through as Jill and as Chris, you go through a corridor and these 2 dogs smash in through the windows and chase you. And remember, like, when you first see that, you imagine that there's nothing like this. We've never experienced a game like this before, and like within like the first 25 minutes of playing the game, you are up against these dogs and they are relentless. And the same goes for the crows. If you go into a puzzle room and there's a puzzle where you have to line up the different switches with the different ages of the people in the photos, and if you don't, these crows descend on you. But the crows, though other games would do them better, for example BioShock Infinite's Man of Crows, I still didn't like them. They were still very, very freakish. Number 4 is the bosses. Now, when you fight the bosses, that is that initial oh my god sort of moment, and you do kind of freak out, but I think with the boss battles you tend to learn their patterns. They tend not to be as frightening until the nemesis in Resident Evil 3. Then it gets a bit more like freaky, but the bosses in the original Resident Evil, they have their formulas, they have their ways to be defeated. That goes for the Titan, that goes for like the snake, the monster. The plant monster I've not really included, even though that is kind of a boss if you play through with Chris, and that's because that's got its own section later. Spoiler alert. But the bosses, they are like really creepy, really well thought out. I love the fact, like, when you go into the lab at the end, the zombies are a bit more sort of decrepit, and when the Titan comes out, it's like chasing you around, and it is a bit freaky, but there are things much more freakier in this game. Number 3 is the setting. Now, often, and this might be a kind of highbrow, you know, when I'm having conversations with friends and we talk about different TV shows and different games, etc., we talk about those things which are characters but are not actually characters, and the setting in this game just does it. Though looking back, it is a bit more like, it's so convoluted. Like, go into the bathroom. Okay, to go to the bathroom, you have to go to this puzzle full of crows, line up the paintings to the switches. That'll give you the one diamond. Once you go to there, you have to break the statues on top of the dining room and get the other diamond, and then you have to go into the dining room, pick up an emblem, take it to an adjacent room, play Moonlight Sonata to open up a secret door, exchange that emerald for another emerald, and then that will move the grandfather clock for the next piece you need to the puzzle. Add these 3 to a back door and you will eventually Yeah, well, I'm making it up, but literally, these are the types of puzzles in Resident Evil. And looking back, it's like, wow, that was overkill. But back for when it was released, going around the mansion with the creepy music and then that sort of calming music when you reach the safe room, especially when the halls are crowded with zombies and other such monsters. The setting, it worked for its time. It was built upon, improved and bettered, but for its time it created this really ominous building that you were in, that was like huge and expansive compared to anything else we've ever experienced. You could even go outside and you'd hear the dogs howling in the distance, and you're like, are those dogs actually going to come and attack me? And sometimes they would, sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes you'd hear the crows and you're like, oh my goodness, am I going to have to run for some crows? Again, sometimes they would and sometimes they would, and eventually you learn the different places. But the setting was enough just to give you that bit of creepy element. A very good example of this is when you go underneath into like a sub-basement of the guardhouse, and this motion video plays, and you eventually see there's a shark chasing you. And it's like you have to turn the water off so the shark can't breathe. You walk out and sort of shoot the shark. It's like the satisfaction of shooting that shark who was handing your ass to you literally like seconds before, as everything else has handed your ass to you in this game. Then it was a welcome reprieve. Number 2, and this is a very personal one, living plants. I don't like any depiction of living plants that got vines that can grab you and suck the life out. I don't know what it is. It just creeps me out. It's like chalk on a black. It's just one of the things that just creeps me out. And I remember when we were in the guardhouse and you have to put the statue over this hole, and if you don't, this big vine comes up and grabs you. And it's absolutely friggin' terrifying. You were literally walking on pins around the rest of that guardhouse until you find out what that plant is all about. And if you're happy to be playing as Jill, it's not so bad, because you find yourself in the room, you get picked up by the plant, and Barry comes in and rescue you with a flamethrower. If you're Chris, you have to basically make up some concoction and go and kill that damn thing right at its roots. Otherwise, if it gets you, you're dead.
Bring me eggs. I am your character.
Did you know there's a Simpsons game out there that you can play which is absolutely and utter terrifying? It's called Eggs with BART, and I did a review on it on a previous video. Have a look at that and several other Simpsons games you can get for free by checking out the link in the description below. And if you enjoy the channel, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment below. What is the scariest video game you've ever played? And why? Number 1 is The Hunters. I remember playing through this the first time, and my friend and I being both relieved that we'd kind of done the mansion, the bulk of the mansion and the guardhouse, and we knew it was only like so much of the mansion left before we sort of moved on. And so we enter back in, and this motion video plays, something running up behind you. And it opens the door and comes and just stares at you, and I remember the pair of us, like, we were like 14 at the time, never seen anything like this before in our lives. Never played a game like this before in our lives. Never sort of, your jaw is just on the floor. You're like, what the fuck is that? And then the damn thing jumps at you. And you better hope you got some ammo, because you get attacked by these things and there are more than one of them on screen at certain times. Yeah, it's game over. And they give me nightmares for weeks. I don't know what it was about them. It was the way they jumped. It was just sort of reptilian look of them, and the way that they were programmed. They just like, yes, that's 5 terrifying moments from the original Resident Evil game. Obviously, playing back to them now, they're not as terrifying. Although they're still exhilarating, game to play. The remake sort of improved so many things from the original. But again, without those original memories, we wouldn't be as invested, and Resident Evil wouldn't be the franchise it is today. So, what were your horror memories growing up by playing different horror games? Let me know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, guys. Love you guys. See you soon.